Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to our 26th lecture of MTH 108 Business Math 1. Today we will start our chapter 13, which is about Introduction to Probability Theory. So what are the objectives of this chapter? To review the fundamentals of set theory and set operations, provide an understanding of fundamental counting methods including permutations and combinations, and to introduce the notation of probability and the computation of probabilities for selected statistical environments. What are the main topics of this chapter? In this chapter mainly we will discuss about the sets and the set operations. We will also see the permutations and combinations, some basic concepts of probability, and the states of statistical independence and dependence. In our today's lecture we will only discuss the sets and set operations, and if we find enough time we will go to the next topic, which is about permutations and combinations. Okay, so there are many situations in life which are uncertain. In such situations exact information is rarely obtainable for decision making. That is, decisions are made in an environment characterized by an absence of complete or perfect knowledge. For example, if the number of units to be sold is known in advance, then the manufacturer would produce exactly the same required number. However, in actual, a decision about the number of units of a product to produce is based upon estimates of the number of units expected to be sold. There are many situations in which uncertainty occurs. We have to make some guesses to obtain our required outcome. The probability concepts are very useful in dealing with these uncertain situations, which characterizes most decision-making environments. So how we deal with these uncertain situations? By using the concept of probability. The probability theory takes advantage of the fact that for many uncertain phenomena there are long-run patterns. For example, if we flip a coin once, then flipping a coin once is an uncertain situation whether a head or a tail will occur. But flipping the coin many times, so this many times is actually corresponds to our long run patterns, and flipping the coin many times approximately gives half heads and half tails as the possible outcomes. So whenever we have some uncertain situation and we are interested in knowing the possible outcomes, we use the concept of probability. And in probability, what do we assume? That phenomena is occurring or repeating itself infinitely many times, and by obtaining these data we can generate our possible set of outcomes. But first we will start with our basic thing, which is sets. The purpose of this chapter is to introduce the fundamentals of probability theory. Since set theory provides a useful tool for presenting and discussing probability concepts, first we will give a brief review of set concepts and the set operations. Although we used some set notation earlier when discussing solution sets for linear equations in our chapter 3, also in our chapter 1 when we were discussing the roots or the solution set of our first degree equation, second degree equation, now we will present a more formal review of set concepts and set operations. So, how do we define a set? A set is any well-defined collection of objects. Okay, by well-defined we mean that the objects present in the set should satisfy some certain condition. For example, set of students enrolled in BBA program. For example, set of teachers giving lectures for the virtual campus. Okay, for example, set of real numbers, set of natural numbers, set of integers, and so on. So the objects which belong to a set are called the elements of the set. That is, we have defined that a set is any well-defined collection of objects. The objects which belong to the set, they are called the elements, and they satisfy some certain criteria or conditions upon which they belong to that particular set. That is, the elements satisfy some conditions to be in the set. How we represent our sets? We have already studied these things in detail in our school classes, but here, just for a quick review, we will study them again. The name of a set is usually written in uppercase letter. The elements are written inside these curly brackets, and the elements of the set are usually defined in one of the two ways. Okay, now we have some more information about the set. What are these informations? What type of notation we use for our set? What type of brackets are used to denote the set? And how we represent the elements or the objects which belong to that particular set. For this we have two ways. First one is the enumeration method. Now this method simply lists all elements in a set. For example, if we have a set A consisting of elements 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, then this capital A is basically the name of the set, because we have said that they are usually written in uppercase letter. The elements are written inside these curly brackets, and the elements can be defined by the enumeration method as we will simply list all the elements which belong in this set. That is, the set A consists of 5 elements, namely 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. Okay. Now in this case, in this particular example, the elements of the set were few, they were less. So we can list all the elements of that particular set. And we have used the enumeration method. But there are many situations in which it is difficult to describe, but there are many situations in which it is difficult to write all the elements of the set. That is, enumeration method has one advantage. First advantage is that there are situations when it is not enough, or we are not in a position to describe the property or the condition which the elements satisfy. Okay, in this case we used an enumeration method and we list all the elements. But the disadvantage of enumeration method is that if a set contains many elements, in this particular example a set has only 5 elements, so we have listed them. But if a set contains many elements, then by listing all the elements is not practical. In this case, the set is defined by stating the property required for the membership in the set. And this method is known as the descriptive property. For example, we take our same example, that is the set A having 5 elements, 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. How we can represent that set using the descriptive property, or how we can describe that set? That is the same notation. With the uppercase, the curly bracket starts and we write X, some vertical line which is equals to such that X is a positive odd integer less than 10. And the curly brackets ends. Okay, we have written the same set by using the descriptive method. That is, the set A is X such that where this vertical line is means such that the set A has elements X such that X is a positive integer less than 10. If we recall our set again by using the enumeration method, the elements were 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. So these are basically all positive integers, odd integers, and they are less than 10. So we can state this set in a descriptive form by saying that X such that x is a positive integer less than 10, where this vertical line represents that such that. Okay. Now verbally, x is the set consisting of all elements x such that x is a positive odd integer having a value less than 10. That is, a is equals to x such that x is a positive odd integer less than 10. Now this vertical line, we know the meaning of this vertical line. This vertical line is such that. Okay. Now how do we write, or how do we describe the property, the elements satisfying, the elements of the set satisfying? Now the x on the left of the vertical line basically represents the general notation for an element of a set. This x is the general notation for an element of a set, and all this description which is on the right side of this vertical line, this description tells us that the condition which the elements of the set satisfy, the condition can be 1 or can be more than 1. So the conditions required of an element to be a member in the set. So this, if we know the property of which the elements of the set satisfy, we can write our set in the descriptive form by this vertical line such that on the left hand side the general notation of the element, usually we write x, and on the right hand side we state the property or the condition which the elements satisfy. Okay. Now we have two ways of defining a set. If an element belongs to the set, for example, to indicate that an object E is a member of a set, we use the notation that E belongs to the set A. Okay. For example, if we go back to our set A, which has elements 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, then we know that the element or the object 9 belongs to the set A. Similarly, the object 5 belongs to the set A. If we want to represent that an object belongs to the set or not, we simply write that object with this sign belongs to that particular set, name of the set. Okay. If we want to write that a particular object does not belong to the set or is not a member of the set, then we use the notation of belongs to with the slanted line crossing it. For example, if we have an object 8, then 8 does not belongs to our set A, and we say that the object does not belong to that particular set. Similarly, for example, 10 does not belong to our set A. Now this notation or the negation of belonging to, it is basically the negation of belonging to, is similar to if we say that two things are equal and two things are not equals, we simply write the equality sign and put a slanting line on it, which means that if an element belongs to this E, capital E, and if an element does not belongs to the same notation belonging to with the slanted line crossing it. One thing more which we may use and we may be interested in knowing is the number of elements contained in a set A. Now the number of elements contained in a set A is denoted by this small n, the brackets and the name of the set. For example, considering the same set A, then this set has how many elements? 5 elements, namely 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. So the number of elements of this set A is 5. So up to now we have seen some basic facts about the set. How do we define a set? What do we mean by the elements of a set? How do we represent a set? By the notation, the brackets, and there are two ways which describe the elements of the set. That is the enumeration method and the descriptive method. And what are the notations used to describe an element belong to a set, an element does not belong to a set, and the number of elements in a set. Now we come to some special types of sets. There are certain special sets which are referred to frequently when discussing the algebra of sets. The first one is the most important and very well known is the universal set. The universal set is a set which contains all possible elements within a particular application under consideration, and it is denoted by this capital U with a bit italic. For example, if we say that this U is the set of all positive odd integers, that is, this can be a universal set if we are considering the integers, if we are considering the positive odd integers only. And how can we write this set in a descriptive form? Simply by U is equals to the brackets X such that X is a which property an element is satisfying, that the element is a positive odd integer. So X such that X is a positive odd integer. Okay. For example, we may consider some more examples. For example, if U is the set of students graduated from COMSETs, okay, and in descriptive form, that is U is equals to X such that X is a graduate from COMSET. This can be a universal set if we are considering the graduate students from some particular institution, let's say COMSET. For example, or more precisely, this set contains X such that X is a graduate student via virtual campus or via regular admissions. So the set, universal set of the graduates from COMSETs consists of all these possible elements, that is, the elements which are graduated from the virtual campus or the elements or the students which have graduated from the regular admissions. The next type of set or the thing right after defining our universal set is the complement of a set. That is, the complement of a set cap S is the set of all elements in the universal set that are not members of the set S, and it is denoted by S with a comma on the right hand side. Okay, so if we have a set S and we want to write the complement of this set, then the complement of this set with respect to our universal set consists of those elements which do not belong to our set S. For example, if our universal set is the set of all positive integers, and our set A is our same set from which we have started, that is having 5 elements, 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, then the complement of the set A with respect to our universal set will be all those elements which do not belong to this set, that is set of all positive odd integers is our universal set, and the complement of set A will be equals to 11, 13, 15, 17 and so on. We should note here that the complement of a set can be an infinite set, that is the complement contains an infinite number of elements. However, our original set contained only finite number of elements. So we conclude that the complement of a set can be infinite, because by writing the complement of a set A using the enumeration method, we cannot list all the elements of the set here, but we can use our descriptive method to write the elements of a set, which will be X, such that X is a positive odd integer greater than 10. If we look at the descriptive form of our original set A, it was the set of all positive odd integers less than 10, and the complement will be the set of all positive odd integers greater than 10. But we cannot write these elements using the enumeration method, because here the number of elements is much more larger. Okay. Now let us consider one more example of the complement of a set. Consider our set U as this, or consider our set U, the universal set, as the set of graduates from COM sets. Okay, and we consider our set B as graduates via virtual campus. Then what will be the complement of the set B with respect to our universal set U? It will be the graduates from COM sets via regular admissions. Okay, we may consider one more example of our universal set. Let's say our universal set consists of first 10 positive integers, and we come back to our set A again, consisting of first 5 positive odd integers. Then the complement of A with respect to our this universal set will be all those elements which belong to the universal set but do not belong to our set A, which means the element 2 belong to the universal set but does not belong to our set A. Similarly, the element 4, element 6, element 8 and element 10. That is, the complement consists of those elements from the universal set which do not belong to our set A. So up to now we have defined two types of sets, universal set, and using the universal set we have defined the complement of a set. Next we come to another important type of set, which is the null set. Now the empty set or the null set is the set consisting of no elements, and it is denoted by this symbol phi, or if we want to denote our null set by using our curly brackets, then only the brackets and no element inside it. If you write the curly brackets and the definition says that consisting of no elements, if you write 0 inside it, which means that this set contains an element 0 and this is not equals to our null set or empty set. So by defining a null set, either we use this notation phi, or we simply write the curly brackets with no element inside. Okay. For example, if we consider our system of equations, 4x plus 3y is equals to 15 and 4x plus 3y is equals to 10, then this system of equations can be solved by elimination method or solving them simultaneously. And in our chapter 3, when we have discussed the system of equations, we have seen that there are three possibilities of a system of equation, three possibilities of the solution. Either the system of equations has a unique solution, or in infinitely many solutions, or no solution at all. If we solve this system of equations simultaneously, that is by adding or by subtracting the first equation from the second, here we obtained 0 is equals to 5, which is not possible, and here by 0 we mean 0x plus 0y is equals to 5, which means that no values of this of x and y satisfy this system of equations, which means that this system of equations has no solution. That is, no values of x and y satisfy both the equations. Which means that the solution set let's say S for the system of equations for this particular system of equations is a null set, or the solution set S is equals to phi. Or if we want to write our solution set using the descriptive method, we will write that the ordered pair xy, because definitely the solution set will consist of some particular value of x and some particular value of y. In the case the system of equations has no solution at all, so the solution set is a null set or an empty set, denoted by S is equals to, written as S is equals to phi, or in descriptive form the ordered pair xy such that 4x plus 3y is equals to 15 and 4x plus 3y is equals to 10 is equals to phi. That is, the solution set will contains all those ordered pairs x and y which satisfy both the equations at the same time, and there is no such value of x and y which satisfy both the equations at the same time, so the solution set is a null set. Okay, next important concept about sets is the subset. A set A is a subset of a set B if and only if every element of A is also an element of B, and the subset relationship is denoted by A, this small c in between, and B. That is, A is a subset of B, so we will write the smaller set first, this subset notation, and the bigger set. And when a set is a subset of another set when every element of the set A is also an element of the set B. For example, if we consider our set A as the set of first 10 positive integers, okay, and our set B as the set of having elements of first 5 positive odd integers, okay. We also consider one more set C, which is written in the descriptive form with the property that X such that X is a real number, okay. And we have one more set D, which is also written in the descriptive form with the general notation of the element Z, such that Z minus 1 is equals to 4. And we are interested in knowing that which set is a subset of the other set. So, for example, if we want to know that the set A is a subset of B, then clearly the answer is no, because for a set A to be a subset of set B, every element of A should be an element of set B. But here 2 does not belong to set B, 4 does not belong to set B. So if at least one element does not belong to the other set, then the set is not a subset of the other set. So in this case the answer is no. But if we want to check the other way around, that is the set B a subset of set A, then every element of set B is an element of set A, which means that B is a subset of A. Similarly, if we want to check that a set A is a subset of set C, then set C is the set of all real numbers. All real numbers we mean over this real line R. That is, every point is included in the set C. Then clearly A will be a subset of our set C. Okay. And now the converse, that is the set C a subset of set A? Then clearly no. Okay. Is the set A a subset of set D? Then D is written in the descriptive form. That is, the set D is defined as those elements Z such that Z minus 1 is equals to 4. So first we have to simplify this set. By simplifying the set, we have to solve this linear equation. This linear equation can be solved very easily by adding 1 on both sides, and the set D has elements 5. That is, 5 is that element which satisfies this linear equation. So the set D contains only one element, 5. And the set A contains the elements which are the first 10 positive integers, which means that A is not a subset of D. But the other way around, the set D is clearly a subset of set A. Okay, if we continue further, is the set B a subset of set C? Then set B is clearly a subset of C because the set C is the set of reals. But C is not a subset of B. So by looking at these simple examples, we say that being a subset of one set is not both ways. That is, for example, if B is a subset of C, does not mean that we will have the converse direction as well. That is, C will be a subset of B. Now, so far we have defined the null set and the universal set. In terms of null set and universal set, we have one important property, that the empty set is a subset of every set. That is, this phi is a subset of our set A, phi is a subset of our set B, phi is a subset of our set C, and this empty set is a subset of our set D. So null set or empty set is a subset of every set. And the second remark which we have seen, or which we know, that every set is a subset of the universal set. That is, A is a subset of C. Now the universal set with respect to the situation considered. Here we are dealing with the numbers only, which means that our set C is the universal set here. So every set is a subset of our universal set C, and a universal set is a subset of itself. That is third thing which we can note, that every set is a subset of itself. That is, A is a subset of itself, B is a subset of the same set B, C is a subset of the same set C, and D is the subset of the same set D. Okay, now we come to another important concept, which is the Venn diagram representation. Now Venn diagrams are a convenient way of envisioning set relationships. The primary value of the Venn diagram is that they convey the information about the set relationships very easily. For example, if we have our universal set, if this is our universal set U and this is our set A, since we have said that every set is a subset of our universal set, so if A is our set, then this Venn diagram represents what? That the set A within our universal set U, and this small set A is represented by a circular area. That is, this portion represents our set A, and this rectangular box is our universal set U. Similarly, we can use the Venn diagram to represent our subsets and the complement of a set. Once we are clear that how we represent our universal set and any set in that universal set by using our Venn diagram, then we can easily draw our Venn diagrams by showing the complement of a set and the subset relations. For example, if this is our universal set U and this is our set A, then the set A is denoted by this circular area, okay. Then by using this Venn diagram, we can also represent the complement of a set, where we have defined the complement of a set consisting of all those elements which are in the universal set, that is in this rectangular box, but not in our set A, which means that all these elements which are in our universal set but not in our set A. So this is our A complement. That is, all elements in U and not in our given set A. Or this complement is defined as all area except our set A, except this circular area. Now the subset relations by using our Venn diagram. Okay, suppose we have this rectangular box as a universal set, and we have one set A lying inside our universal set, and we have one more set B lying inside our set A. That is, set B is represented by a small circle and a set A is represented by our big circle. And we are interested in knowing that which of these three sets are subset of each other. Okay, first question is the set A a subset of our universal set? Yes, true, because every set is a subset of universal set. Similarly, set B is a subset of our universal set. Okay, now what is the relation between these two sets A and B? Okay, when we have defined the subset, we have defined that set X will be a subset of a set Y if every element of X belongs to an element of Y. So in this case, so set B lies inside a big circle which is denoted by a set A, and we can clearly see from our Venn diagram that B is a subset of A, because every element of set B belongs to our set A. So by using a Venn diagram is represented as the main set, the bigger set, and the subset with a small circle inside our main set. Further, what further information we have? That by using this complement, if we look at our complement and the subset relation, we clearly know that the set A is a subset of our universal set. And what further information from this complement we obtain? That the complement is also a subset of our universal set, because every element of the complement belongs to our universal set. So a set and its complement both are the subsets of our universal set. Next important thing which we consider, first by defining our set operations, is the equality of sets. So far we have defined different types of sets, that is the universal set, complement of a set, null set, and subset, and these relations by using our Venn diagram. Now we come to the set operations, and whenever we are defining the set operations, the first thing which we define is the equality of the sets. Okay, just as there are arithmetic operations which provide the foundation for algebra, trigonometry, and other areas of study in mathematics, there is an arithmetic of set theory which allows for the development of an algebra of sets. And the first thing which comes in the set operations is the set equality, which says that two sets A and B are equal if and only if every element of A is an element of B and every element of B is an element of A, where this if and only if means that we can obtain in both directions, where if and only if is represented by this double arrow, okay, which says that if two sets are equal, then let's say we have two sets A and B, and if two sets are equal, then every element of A is an element of B, which means that A is a subset of B, and every element of B is an element of A, which means that B is a subset of A. Okay, and if and only if can be abbreviated as IFF, and we can obtain the other direction as well, that is whenever A is a subset of B and we have and it in between, and B is a subset of A, we obtain that both the sets are basically equal. So either we have the left hand side, we conclude our right hand side, or if we have our right hand side, we conclude our left hand side. Let's have a look at some examples. For example, we have our set A having two elements 1 and 2, our set B defined in a descriptive way, that is x, such that the product of x minus 1, x minus 2 and x minus 3 is equals to 0. Our set C defined in the enumerated form containing elements 1, 2, 3, and our set D again defined in the descriptive form, that is x, such that x square minus 3x plus 2 is equals to 0. That is those elements x which satisfy this quadratic equation. And we are interested in knowing that which of these four sets are equal or not. So first we start with our question, that is the set A equals to set B. For this, first we have to simplify our set B, that is we have to solve this cubic equation. It is a cubic equation, that is a polynomial of degree 3, and we have to solve this cubic equation, that is the product of x minus 1, x minus 2 and x minus 3 is equals to 0. Now all these are real numbers, which means that the values of x which satisfy this cubic equation are x is equals to 1, x is equals to 2 and x is equals to 3. So this is basically our set B, consisting of 3 elements 1, 2 and 3. Now to check that whether the set A and set B are equal, we have to check two things. That is the set A a subset of B, then clearly every element of set A is an element of set B, so this is okay. And the second condition, both of these conditions should satisfy, that is both should be a subsets of each other to obtain the equality of the sets. The second condition is that is B a subset of A, which we can see that B is not a subset of A because the element 3 does not belong to the A, which concludes that A is not equals to B. That is the set A and B are not equal to each other. Okay, now we ask about the equality of sets A and C. Then the first thing we have to check that is A a subset of C. Then clearly every element of A is an element of C, so this is true. And the second condition, that is C a subset of A, which is not true, which means that the set A is not equals to the set C. Okay, now is the set A equals to the set D? Now the set D is given in the descriptive form. First we have to simplify this quadratic equation to find the roots of this equation. Okay, the quadratic equation is x square minus 3x plus 2 is equals to 0. Either we can use the quadratic formula or we can factor this equation to find the roots, and we will use our factorization method. Okay, here we obtained x into x minus 1 minus 2 into x minus 1 is equals to 0. Taking x minus 1 common, we obtain x minus 1 into x minus 2 is equals to 0, and the possible values of x are 1 and 2. So our set D is nothing but consisting of two elements 1 and 2 which satisfy our quadratic equation. And we again ask the same question, that are the sets A and D equal to each other? For this, the first direction, that is A a subset of D, then clearly A is a subset of D. Is D a subset of A? This is also true, which means that the sets A and D are equal to each other. So we have defined our set A using the enumeration method and our set D using the descriptive method. But by solving and simplifying, we have seen that both the sets have the same elements, same number of elements and same elements, which means that both the sets are equal. We also ask ourselves We also ask ourselves that are the sets B and C equal? Then for this, is the set B a subset of our set C? Yes, clearly, because the set B consists of 3 elements 1, 2, 3, and the set C also consists of 3 elements 1, 2, 3, which gives us that set C is also a subset of our set B, and both these sets are equal. So from this we have concluded that we were given 4 sets. 2 of them were written in the enumeration form and 2 of them were written in the descriptive form. And what we have concluded that the set A is equals to set D and the set B is equals to the set C. And the set A is not equals to set B, or we can say that the set A is not equals to the set C. Also the set D is not equals to the set B, or we can say that the set D is not equals to the set C. Wherefore not equal, we have simply put a slanting line on our equality sign. Now given any type of sets, we can clearly check that whether the given 2 sets are equal or not. If they are given in the enumeration method, enumerated form, we can simply check the elements by checking that both of them are the subset of each other or not. Or if they are given in the descriptive form, we can simplify the descriptive form by pointing out the exact members or the elements of the set, and then we can check that the sets are subset of each other or not. Now we come to another important set operation, which is the union of 2 sets. By union of 2 sets A and B, we mean that is a set which consists of all the elements contained in A or in B or in both A and B, and the union of 2 sets A and B is denoted by A, this U, and B. Okay, for example, suppose we have 2 sets A and B, and we also want to see these 2 sets with the help of our Venn diagram. This is our set A, this is our set B. For example, the set A is a set of balls of color blue ball, green ball, yellow ball, and red ball. Okay, which means that set A has 4 elements: blue ball, green ball, red ball, and yellow ball. Okay, now let us define the elements of our set B again, which has 3 elements, that is the black ball, red ball, and the yellow ball. That is, the set B has 3 elements: black ball, red ball. Now this is our red ball. Okay, this point, and the next one is our, and we want to find the union of these 2 sets. So the union of these 2 sets A and B will be the elements either in A, okay, or in B, or in both A and B. So the union of these 2 sets will be this region, that is this region. In B, in A, and in both. And the union of these sets will be the elements in A, that is the blue ball, green ball, yellow ball, and red ball, or in B, which means the black ball, or in both. Okay, so the union has these 5 elements or these 5 balls, that is 2 balls from the set A, 1 ball from the set B, and 2 balls common in both. For example, if we have 2 sets with the set A having elements 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the set B having elements our first set from where we have started, okay, and we are interested in knowing the union of these two sets, and we have one more set C having the elements 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. Then the union of the sets A and B will be the elements in A or in B or in both. So the element 1 is in both the sets, so we will write it. The element 2 is in set A only. The element 3 is in both the sets, so we will write it again. Element 4, 5, 7 and 9. So this is the union of these two sets A and B. Now the union of two sets B and C will be the elements in B or in C or both. Since both the sets have no elements in common, so their union will be the elements of the set B and the elements in the set C. So the elements in the set B or the elements in the set C. Now the union of the set A with set C will be equals to the elements which are in A or in C or both or common to both of them. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 and 10. If we have our set A and we want to find the union of this set with its complement, then the union of any set, then what will be the answer? The union of a set with its complement is nothing but the universal set. That is, if this is our universal set, this is our set A, and this portion represents, this is our set A, and this portion represents the A complement, then the union of both these sets, the set with it and its complement, is nothing but the universal set. Okay, now we come to the next important property of the set operations, which is the intersection of sets. Suppose we have two sets A and B, then their intersection denoted by A, this N or U in the upside down, or U written in other way. So the intersection of two sets A and B is a set having elements which are common to both the sets A and B, that is, which belong to both A and B at the same time. For example, if we take the example of our balls, so the set A had blue ball, green ball, yellow ball and red ball, and the set B has black ball, red ball and yellow ball. Then the intersection of these two sets will be the elements which are common to both, that is, which belong to both. So the blue ball does not belong to the set B, the green ball also does not belong to the set B, but the yellow ball is common to both the sets. Also the red ball is common to both of the sets, and the black ball does not belong to the set A. So the intersection of these two sets is the red ball and the yellow ball. Okay. That is, if we want to see the intersection of two sets with the help of Venn diagram, this is our universal set, this is our set A, and this is our set B. Okay, let's take the example of these two sets where we have yellow ball in both the sets and red ball in both the sets, which means that the A intersection B will be this combined region. That is the region which belongs to the set B and also belongs to the set A. So this is our region A intersection B. And in the case of A union, it was the whole region. So A intersection B is the region which is common to both the sets. Let's have a look at one more example, or the example which we have considered for the case of union, where the set A has the first 5 positive integers, the set B has the first 5 positive odd integers, and the set C has the first 5 positive even integers. Then A intersection B will be the elements common to both. Now 1 belong to both the sets, 3 belong to both the sets, and 5 belong to both the sets. So A intersection B has 3 elements, 1, 3 and 5. A intersection C, so 2 belong to the set C and A as well, and 4 belong to the set C and A as well. So A intersection C has 2 elements, 2 and 4. Now B intersection C, do they have any element common? No, which means that their intersection is a null set or an empty set. Okay, now what will be the intersection of a set A with its complement, where our universal set is the set of first 10 positive integers. Okay, then the intersection of a set A with its complement. Okay, this is our set universal set, this is our set A, and this is the complement. Do they have anything in common? No. So the intersection of a set A with its complement is an empty set. Now what will be the intersection of a set B with the universal set? That is, this is our universal set and this is our set B, and we are taking the elements which are common to both. So it is only the smaller set, that is the set B. Now by looking at these last two examples, we can conclude some properties of the intersection of sets and the union of sets. Okay, we first start with the properties of the intersection of sets. The first property, which we have just seen with the help of Venn diagram as well, is that the intersection of a set with its complement is an empty set. What does this mean? That is, the intersection of a set and or with its complement is a null set. That is, this is our universal set U, this is our set A, and this is the complement of this set. We obtain what? This is our universal set U and the intersection as our empty set. Okay, the second property about the intersection of sets is that the intersection of a set A with itself is the same set. That is, the intersection of a set with itself is the same set. Or with the help of Venn diagram, we have our set A intersected with itself is the same set A again. Okay. One more property about the intersection of sets, that is the intersection of a set with a universal set is always the smaller set, which in words is that the intersection of a set with the universal set is the set again, is the same set. And what do we mean by this with the help of Venn diagram? This is our set A intersected with our universal set is our same set A again. And the last property about the intersection of sets, that is the intersection of a set with a null set is a null set, which we can see that in case of intersection we always obtain the smaller set. That is, intersection of a set with a null set is a smaller set. Intersection of a set with a universal set is the smaller set itself. So intersection of a set with a null set is the null set again. And what do we mean by this with the help of Venn diagram? This is our set A intersected with a null set, we obtain our null set. And now we list the similar properties for the union of sets. That is, for the union of sets, if we have a set A and its complement, then the union of these two sets is the universal set. Okay, that is, the union of a set with its complement is the universal set. And with the help of Venn diagram, this is our set A union with its complement, where this is the set A, and by taking the union of these two we obtain our universal set. The second property, similar to our intersection property, is that the union of a set A with itself is the same set again. That is, union of a set with itself is the same set again. That is, this is our universal set, this is our set A union with itself is the same set again. And the last two properties on the lines of intersection of sets is that the union of a set with a universal set is the universal set. That is, union of a set with the universal set is the universal set. In case of union, we always obtain the bigger set, and in case of intersection, we always obtain the smaller set. That is, this is our universal set, this is our set A union with our universal set is the universal set again. And the last property on the lines of intersection of sets is that the union of a set A with an empty set is the set A itself again. That is, union of a set and an empty set is the set again. So in case of union, we always obtain the bigger set. And with the help of Venn diagram, this is our set A, union with our empty set is our set A again. So these were the four basic and very simple properties of the union of sets and the intersection of sets, which we have already seen many times. Now with this we end our today's lecture. Today we have studied about the sets, the elements of the sets, and the representation of sets in two ways, that is the enumeration method and the descriptive method. The set notations and the elements of set, and what do we mean by the number of elements of a set. Then we have discussed some special types of sets, that is the universal set, the complement of a set, null set, and the subset, and their representation with the help of a Venn diagram. Then we have studied some set operations, first by studying the equality of the sets, then the union and intersection of sets, and some properties of set operations. Then in the end we have some practice questions from our section 13.1. With this we end our today's lecture, and in our next lecture we will study about permutations and combinations. Allah Hafiz students.